right, we are live again, once again, in Doomsday's Krypt, and I got a good friend I met in Kentucky, and we've become real close. He had me on my show, on his show, a fantastic host, and I've gotten to know a little bit more about him. He's not just a horror fan; he's a wrestler, has a wrestling podcast slash horror podcast. He's got it all cool. You can see a lot of it behind him, Mr. Adam Newsome. What is going on, my friend?
John, thank you so much for having me on, dude. I've been excited about this for a while. We had such a good show, on a Wild Time podcast. We just shot the bull, and it went so well that you reached out and was like, dude, I got to get you on mine. So I'm excited to be here in the Krypt with John.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to have you on, man. Like I said, like you said, really, we had a great time on your show. You're a fantastic host. He's got Wild Time podcast, but he's under Adam Newsome on YouTube. I posted it in the link here, but it only went to the YouTube chat, like the YouTube link. So let me post it in the Facebook group here so people can see your link before I forget about it. Awesome. Michael Toth is here. I was just showing Adam the piece that you sent. The clown. We'll keep it a little top secret because I'll be doing an unboxing. Well, not so much an unboxing, not anymore.
I've been calling Michael Toxic Toth. So if he ever comes out to the ring with me or creates some sort of good logo I can put on the back of my trunks or something, that'd be pretty killer one day.
He honestly, he probably has the perfect art style for wrestling trunks, just like he does with the horror. What he does with his art, as you know, and you've seen, I got a bunch of his stuff around here. The Michael Myers. My room's kind of unorganized because I'm getting ready to do my film clip. I really like that Hellraiser behind it, but you see the Leatherface, the Christmas Leatherface.
Already. Yeah, I love that, dude. The hat that came on it, I think you take it off and on, it was so sick.
Yeah, Mike, man, I'm trying to show off more of these cutouts so people have a chance to get them at these events. Because when they have the black lights on with them, oh man, you can sit in a room and just look at these things. I love them. I love these cutouts to death. And he's doing those Funko Pops. So we give our boy Michael Toth a big shout out.
Absolutely, but he's done. So I mean, I'm amazed. Like I said, man, I've got the old Leatherface 3, the one that he did, and when I came across that at Scarefest, like I said, when I first met you, actually face to face, and I loved what you had going on, man. I mean, as a horror fanatic, I guess you would say myself, to come across that and the environment in which you and your guys were there. I think Thomas Bruce was there. Yep. And it was just a good atmosphere, man. And you had so many cool things, and we just get it off, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. We try to do different stuff, not just the stuff that you always see, some just off the wall, unique style stuff. There's so many different talents that I've been blessed to have on my table, as you know. The list goes on and on and on of all these amazing talents that it's an honor for me to just showcase half their stuff there. And it's hard as somebody who loves the stuff they do to let it go at times. But I love seeing the people who get the joy out of it. I think you might even bought either the first or the last Leatherface box. And so I don't even have one, so I'm envious. I do have the original art though.
Oh, okay. Well, the Friday the 13th Part 3 custom one was bad to the bone too, man. I wanted to get it. Also, I really regret not getting that one because that's my favorite Friday the 13th, and it was just, I think it came with 3D glasses inside of it and stuff. It was really well done. Really well done.
It was cool. It was definitely cool. And those sold out fast. That's my favorite one too, Part 3 with Brooker.
Yes,
Brooker's my favorite, Jason, and CJ is my second favorite. And I'm actually going to see CJ again next month in February at Missouri Comic-Con. I'm not going as a vendor. I'm just going to visit. And
CJ probably was the bone too. He was.
Yeah.
CJ was so broad and tall too. I didn't realize how big he was, man, until I seen him at Scarefest. And I'm not a small guy by any means, but he was like 6'6". The dude is still in phenomenal shape. I mean, hats off to him.
Oh yeah, he still looks. he could still whoop some ass. You could
I
tell that dude's
guarantee it.
yeah,
Guarantee it.
a super cool guy, super ball buster too. It was cool that him and Tom Matthews hung out at the table. That's always a great memory, having pictures of those two behind the table hanging out. And it worked out perfect because he was in that Vengeance movie, and the cutout's like right next to his head, where of Eli Voorhees, Jason's father, which he
Well,
plays,
yeah.
and in the picture you got CJ's head, and then the Elias, not Eli, Elias cutout just hanging like the Elias with the long hair of him from the movie in there. So it just turned out to be a not planned picture, but ironically a really cool picture.
I had Jason Brooks and Darcy DeMoss on Wild Time Podcast promoting Vengeance too, and Darcy I mean, man, she still is bad to the bone. I mean, she don't look like she's aged a day. And Brooks, man, they were just really proud of that, and it turned out to be really cool too. And having CJ in it and some of the other guys from the Friday the 13th franchise, they really did a cool thing there.
I mean, they might not be official films, but damn, those are some good films. If you like
Yeah.
Part 6, I always tell everybody you gotta watch Vengeance and Vengeance too. Just brutal too. I think Jason Brooks is like, right up there with what he reminds me of what Damon Leone does, because Damon Leone does all, he's an SFX guy and a huge mind in horror, and Jason Brooks is right up there with what he's doing. Man, those are my two favorite films. Actually, I spoke to Jason Brooks the other day. He's coming on next Friday, so I haven't even announced that. I've had him on with Mick Strawn before when I was going to Bucala. I had Jason Brooks on, and we talked Vengeance, and I hadn't seen Vengeance yet, and I watched it, and because Mick had told me he worked on it, and I was like, man, this is really, really good. And heard Vengeance 2 was coming out.
Mick is so cool. He's got so many good stories too. I mean, he's got so many good stories from the films he worked on. I had him on. Well, he was I think Mick may have been my first horror guest. But just the stories he had, and actually we had talked about it and joked about it. He was the set designer on Boogie Nights, and Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies ever. And he said, Adam, he's like, dude, he said, if you don't let me forget, he said, we'll do a whole episode on behind the scenes of Boogie Nights. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to let you forget that.
Oh, I got the Boogie Nights story. Mick's awesome. He came to Phantasm, where Nick Benson was too, and Mick and Nick are really close. And Beatrice, and he did that whole story. He told us Mick is the funniest storyteller ever, and he's got so many stories too. It could go on and on. But yeah, Mick's fantastic, and that's cool. You had him on. He's so down to earth too, and cool with anybody who's a fan of horror. He's kudos to Mick.
I'm a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 fan. I mean, it's mind blowing to grow up as a child and that be your favorite movie of all time, pretty much. And then you get in your 30s and you become friends with R.A. Mihailoff. Jeff Burr sent me some cool stuff from the film Autograph for the Bears Den. My little gym I do work kids out. He sent me some really cool stuff to hang up down here. It's just, and then Mick done a lot of work on that film, and to talk about the truck that's in that film and how he envisioned putting it together and in his mind and the gas station. If you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, check out that Mick Strawn interview, because I asked him a lot of questions about working on the set of that movie.
I'll definitely check that one out, because I didn't had a chance to talk to Mick about Leatherface or Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, because it's always been Nightmare on Elm Street. We talked about a few other things, and always fun to hear a story. And with Mick, he'll tell you he's got so much stuff he could talk to you about and so many great stories. You gotta be like, Mick, we're gonna talk about this one, and he'll do it. And oh man, I love hearing Mick's stories. I can just sit back and listen to Mick's stories all day long.
I could too. And I swear he's almost, like you said, he can tell us. It's almost like he could be on a stage, man, just captivate you with his stories, because as fans like us, John, we love hearing that stuff, so we could sit and listen to him for days.
I think with him being a production designer and observing so much and knowing so much, the little details, that he picked up so much, that he's been able to absorb those into great stories to remember really any aspect of it. And even like he was talking, I had him and Nick on, and they were talking about the Chest of Souls
Yeah.
scene, and Mick just kind of saw it, was ready to fall over, and just walked away. He's just the way he explains it too is just too funny. He's like, "I'm out of here."
The way he described the big blue truck in Leatherface was, I think he said he grew up in San Bernardino, California, and it was like a real rough town, like a redneck town in California. And he said that there was trucks like that just was loud. And he said, as a kid, I think he was a kid or younger, I could be wrong, but he said that was where the inspiration for that truck came from. Was actually where he used to live at.
That's cool, man. I did not know that. Ken Foree's great from that movie. Have you ever gotten a chance to meet Ken Foree yet?
I haven't. I'm really looking forward to it because I loved Devil's Rejects also, and I thought he played such a killer Ken in that one. Which he's played anything Ken Foree is in is awesome. He does such a wonder. He's like
even the Rob Zombie Halloween,
yes.
He was so great.
John Grizzly, yes.
Grizzly. He's a big dude too.
He
really, super cool though.
It's like William Forsythe. I think a lot of him as an actor. And Ken Foree, like, you can tell those guys. That's one thing about Rob Zombie's films, man. I love Richard Brake. He's always in Zombie's films. And even though he takes a lot of flack, the guys that he gets for his movies are super talented actors.
He does. I mean, I found people either love or hate Rob Zombie. And I enjoy his films. I actually was talking to some friends on their podcast after my show last night. I was up late, and we talked a little bit about it. And Tony saying she loves you. That's Michael Toe's mom. She thinks you're awesome. Michael Toe saying some cocaine bear wrestling. My good friend Ben Robinson, you didn't meet him, but he was at Krypticon, helped me out over in Krypticon, Minneapolis. Michael Toast saying Devil's Reject is #1. That's a lot of people's #1 Rob Zombie film.
It's probably mine. It's like an old school Western. And Forsythe as the sheriff, man, he was a threat to those guys. And I think that was Thomas Bruce. What's up, Thomas? Great guy right there, man.
Yeah, Thomas was a lot of fun. He showed, Mike did the art, and he put all those VHS boxes. He does a great job in the production, and yeah, the boxes come out great. I even got the Nightmare on Elm Street one I was showing off last night. So we'll give Michael Toth and Thomas Bruce a little love there. Doomsday's Krypt. I love the shine on those stickers. Yeah, those are cool. Yeah, I had to show those off last night, the keychains.
I love them. I've got 2 or 3 of them down here. One of them's up in my gym and stuff. And
they're just cool convention pieces, man. That's the way I see it. They're just cool, affordable convention pieces that if the celebrity's there to get them to sign it.
And that was genius, honestly. Because me and my kid, we left basketball practice and went straight to Scarefest. And when we got there, we just kind of in a hurry because it was Friday. He had a basketball game. Usually we come Saturday and spend the whole day, but he had a basketball game that day or Saturday, excuse me. So we went down in a hurry Friday. And once we come across your table, man, I've seen the way you were describing those, what they were for. It was for convention. Anybody that goes to these conventions, and Doomsday Krypt to set up, and Thomas Bruce and all the buy from them, take them, because like I did with the Leatherface, when I took it straight to R.A. Mihailoff, he thought it was an actual movie. He's like, I've not seen this one before. He thought it was VHS. When he opened it, he's like, wow. And he started checking out all the cool items that are in these boxes. And it's, for a fan like us, man, it's perfect to have cast and people sign.
I think so too, and that's what we always try to think about when we're doing conventions: is what's cool for the fans, what's something that we can make for a price that's affordable yet cool, and all different things. Try to have a variety of pretty much everything at the tables. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And certain people who come to the tables, and you know how busy that place was.
Yeah,
stand out. You were definitely one of the people that I was like, yeah, I remember this dude. Because you came over several times with your kid, and I even got the picture. I should have used it, but I didn't want to use your kid in any pictures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
well,
I appreciate that, but I mean, you can throw. He's up on it. He goes
Yeah,
to. We do conventions, or not, excuse me, conventions, but we do seminars with like UFC fighters and MMA legends. So he's all over the place with me. But yeah, that was Brett, me and Big Swag together, wasn't it?
yeah, big swag, man. Yeah,
That
that's
was
I
at
had to post
Pikeville at the
that
Harley
one.
Davidson shop, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Brett does a lot of like he's into the Harley stuff, so he'll get invited to a lot of that. He does the lawnmower stuff. Brett's all
Brett
over the
is so
place. Brett's
cool.
awesome.
And now that you mentioned that, what I this was like the first time I brought a hammer to him, as you can tell a little bit here. It
I
says
can see it.
Brett.
The Lost Leatherface,
Yeah,
2003.
I took that up there, man, and he didn't expect anybody to come. He told me, he's like, I didn't expect anybody from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, fans be here. He was on Sons of Anarchy, I think, at that time, and a lot of people were, that was the rave at one point, and I came in with my mask and stuff, and I was like, do you care to sign this? And I was always real interested in the Brett Wagner situation with that movie. I always wondered because, and now it's so cool that he does conventions in costume because now you can actually see what Leatherface was intended to look like in that movie.
Yeah, it was. Man, I think he did it's unfortunate for him,
Yeah,
but he really did have an iconic scene in there. He's real humble about it, and I really love the way he embraces the fans. I mean, he's become, as you know, a really good friend of mine,
yeah,
and I can't say enough good things
you
about Brett.
can.
I was looking for that picture of you and your son, but I can't find it on my computer, so
I
I was gonna
like
pull it up for
Brett.
people.
Brett's wife, Dee Dee. She's a sweetheart, also, man. They're just a good couple. I think she was in some cool, scary movies, also, if I'm not mistaken. Back and so there, when me and Brett did the Wild Time podcast, um, we were talking wrestling. He was in the wrestling business, and he was asking her. He was cutting promos, and she was over. I think she was watching Monday Night Raw at the time, and she was like telling him keep it down a little bit or something.
I could see him being a great. I mean, he does great promo work anyway on the mic, and you know, uh, you've seen it the way he'll announce how he's at a convention. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine as a wrestler, he pulled it off great. And Mike's saying, nice TCM collection. He's digging it.
Let's see here, Mike. Let's see. Got a little bit of Chainsaw 3 up there. Dan Yeager, Gunnar Hansen, uh, autographs. I've got a lot of stuff that this is kind of like when I do a horror episode or I'm involved in any kind of scary, this kind of Bloody Apron behind me. But yeah, this is kind of where I do my show. Like if I'm doing something horror here, if I'm doing sports, like with
You just switch it
Flay,
around. You just adjust the table to where it needs to be,
that's
man.
it. That is it.
I've been trying to do that within here, but every single time I seem to want to get it done, I got to move things around for something else. Where I got Michael Myers here, TCM over there, Jason over here, or something, and I just never see it. It never works out that way ever,
I'm telling you
ever.
though, that logo behind you is almost iconic. I'm telling you, dude, that's gonna be spread out everywhere. That because I love it. I mean, I think that's just like one of the coolest logos there is. And the more conventions you do and stuff, the more those stickers are going to get out, and who knows?
Yeah, I really love it. It came off a picture of me just doing that, and I'm here like, Mike, could you do something cool with this? And he came up with that, and he's like, what do I do with that big ass forehead? He put an eye there, and then Thomas Bruce did some blood lettering. I'm like, can we do some blood lettering? And Thomas Bruce did it, and I love it too. I mean, it's like I'm real proud of it. I do like it simple behind me. I want to kind of keep it that way. And you've seen the sculpt that's coming along, right? That Josh Lucas is doing.
I don't know if I have.
You haven't seen the three-eyed demon he's working on?
No, I'd like to though. It sounds awesome.
Let me see. I thought I pulled it up last. Hold on a sec. Let me see what I got here. Let's see if I can find it. I could have swore I posted it last night. Maybe I posted it in.
So he's making like a sculpt of it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sick, and we're gonna do a dial around it. I've been talking to him, make it the Krypt, and we're doing. Mike put the cover together. We're planning on doing Doomsday's Krypt VHS boxes. I actually just got the back piece for it. The cover is right behind me too, but here's the back for now. That's going to be. Do I got it upside down? Of course I do. And that's a character we're calling Cal, and the Doomsday demon, who's Tredian. That's what we came up with for the three-eyed demon. And yeah, there's the cover over there. The actual glare.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got it in the wrong size thing, but I wanted to keep it protected, and I got all my art stuff just kind of packed up neatly, and my 11 by 14s are packed under this table somewhere.
John, you'll end up having to expand before in the next year. You'll have to build on rooms, dude, with all the cool stuff you've got in there.
Well, we're building. The basement's actually getting. This is just a room in here. It's so I don't ask me how I usually get a lot in there, but we're gonna be turning the downstairs basement into a man cave. So the electrician's coming to do stuff. So I'll be able to spread it out a little bit and just kind of I want to kind of keep this simple, like you said, with just the Doomsday's Krypt brand and logo around it.
That's
and then be able to show stuff.
Show. I mean, that's perfect for your show. Background right behind you. It looks perfect, honestly.
I appreciate when it got the other stuff, I love it, but it almost seems too crowded.
Yeah.
It especially in the size room. Let me see if I can find the picture of it. I know I got it here. If you haven't seen it, I can't believe it. I think I showed it last night. Let's see if I can find stuff here. I'm not used to using my computer to go through Facebook. It seems like I'm always doing it on my phone.
That's me. Usually, this is like the first time I did a episode of anything on my phone. I usually do it on my wife's laptop. I've got everything set up through it.
Oh, nice. Oh, here we go. I got it up here. Let me connect it. I think you'll dig it, man. It's gonna be sick. It's in the works. A guy named Josh Lucas is doing it. He's one of those guys I saw posting some work in Doomsday's Krypt. I'm like, let's see if he's down to do it. And I gotta say he did. And you're always nervous when you're gonna do a sculpt and you never know how it's gonna come out. And this guy is just totally killed it so far.
Well, you were like a very
that's you. Oh, here we go.
I have seen that. I didn't know that was what that was exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be the demon. Well, yeah, because it still needs the goatee and it needs the hair, but it's going to be the sculpt is there, and we're going to probably be producing them, so there will be these will be available for people once it's haired and everything. And I think it's going to be a 6 centerpiece. We're going to put like a diorama around the base, and then for each character, we're going to have it where it connects with the dio for like the crypt area. From the comic, we're gonna put that, dark dungeon crypt type deal. We already got a character called Batra, and then we got the one Cal I told you about, and so we've been brainstorming it. I need a little more time. I need to take some time off from work to really focus on the story part, which I'm trying to do, but I'm a workaholic too, so it's tough. It's tough. The OCD, I can never do things simple, and I always make it. I've challenged myself, let me put it that way.
When you're like me and you, and you're involved in so many different things, man, we just need more hours in the day, really.
It's just, yeah, I'm telling you, man. Honestly, it's just never enough time, and then it feels like I'm running on empty half the time. And I'm a night person, so I'll be dragging ass during the day, and then nighttime comes, and I'm ready to go. Oh, the lighters, yeah, the lighters are great. We're going to be getting some of those, like Doomsday's Krypt, just Bic lighters.
Yeah.
Cool things. Those would be pretty cool in like a VHS box. Just let the parents know that the kids have a lighter in the box or something. Yeah, and I'm going to be seeing Mankind, Mick Foley, soon.
Where
next month? He's going to be at Missouri Comic-Con.
Really?
Yeah.
He's going to be in Ashland, Kentucky. Also, I think Kane is going to be there also at Time Warp. It's like a sports store kind of deal where they sell sports memorabilia
and stuff like that.
But they've been getting a lot of really cool guests. They had Tyler Main, and I've actually been in talks with Andrew Bernarski recently because they had been wanting to get him and Bob Elmore in on the same deal, and I'd reached out to Andrew actually to try to get him on my show, and he didn't really act too interested. But I talked to the guys from Time Warp. They're like, "So you talked to him?" I was like, "Yeah, I talked to him." And they're like, "Well, I'd like to bring him in." So I kind of reached out. Hopefully, they'll work something out, and that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be. I mean, that'd be a great guest for you. I don't think he does a lot of podcasts, so
He
I mean, that
the
would
way I
definitely be.
understood it, he didn't do much podcast. So if they get him for like a meet and greet or something in Huntington, West, no, it's going to be in Ashland, I think. Ashland Mall. That would be where it was at. So, but yeah, you're going
That'd
to
be
meet
cool.
Mick Foley, you say?
Yeah, I am. I've met Mick. I haven't met him before, but I've actually I've met a few wrestlers. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was super cool. Ric Flair was awesome. Jerry the King Lawler was really really cool too. We've met a few of them.
Mick Foley came
Booker
to.
T.
Oh, I'd like to meet Booker T. I was always a big fan of his work. His in ring ability was awesome, man.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Mick
He's
Foley
hilarious.
came to Hazard just out of nowhere without any promotion or anything. Somebody told me, they were like, "Dude, Mick Foley's going to be at Hazard at the library doing a speech." And I was put in a swimming pool, and I went and got my little boy and my wife, and we rode over there. And he was basically there for about an hour, and he was just giving a speech on you can do anything kind of deal. And I met him, got a sock signed. He was signing socks, like Socko, and he was just a sweet dude. You could tell Mick Foley don't have a bad bone in his body.
No, but he's got a lot of hurting ones. I feel
Broken
bad for
bones.
that man. That dude laid his life and his body on the line for wrestling, and you got to thank him. But I'd love to ask him. Well, actually, I don't know what if I'd ask him, but I mean, was it worth it? You know, because
Yeah,
the
that's a
way
good
he's got to
question.
feel, was it worth it? I mean, when you saw him go off that cage, I don't care. You could say it's it's planned to happen. That's it's just not how it
That's
works.
that's a 20
Insane.
foot drop off of a steel cage onto. I mean, you think about it. The announcers supposedly did not know that was going to happen. There was three people that knew it was going to happen. It was Undertaker, Mick Foley, and I want to say Vince or Bruce Pritchard, one or the other. I don't know. But only like three people. So when you hear Jim Ross going off, good God, he's broken in half. That's legitimate. That's the first thing that came to his mind, I guess. I mean, it was a sheesh. It was the craziest bump I've ever seen.
Well, he did through the cage too.
He said it was worse.
Yeah, and then because the table actually probably had a little cushion. Any of it looked painful. The guy, and he wasn't like a super athlete as far
Right.
as anything. He just laid his body on the line and just took a beat, and the dude was he was insane. But the thing is, he's incredibly smart too. He's
If you get a chance to see the second when he goes through the cage, he's got a chair that was up there with him. So when he takes that choke slam, the chair comes down with him and lands and breaks his tooth out, and it goes up his nose. So when he gets back in the corner of the turnbuckle, you can see it looks like a booger, but it's actually his tooth embedded in his nose. And he
I
said
actually read the book on that. I read his book, and for me, I saw it. I read it, and I was before. I mean, I always was a fan of Cactus Jack and everything. It was never, I don't want to say he was never my favorite wrestler. Like his legend grew the longer he just kept doing what he did, and always up in the craziness of what he did. And his book was incredible. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but if you ever get a chance to get your hands on it, it was a great read. It was on sale for like $1. I'm taking this. I'm going to read it. And once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down.
I read the Eddie Guerrero book and the Ric Flair biography. Those two I had read, but the Mick Foley getting it for $1. Actually, Lex Luger has one I've been wanting to get a hold of called Wrestling with the Devil or something like that, and I would like to check that one out. I was really intrigued with Lex Luger's story, how he kind of fell from grace, man, and had a lot of bad stuff going on after Miss Elizabeth died at his house and stuff, and he kind of hit rock bottom and got right with God. And even though a lot of bad stuff's happened to him, he's in a wheelchair basically and lost all.
I think, did we lose you?
I'm on here.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go. You're back.
Yeah. I had a phone call try to come through. But anyways, with Lex Luger, man, with everything bad happened, that happened, he's kind of redeemed himself with everything, and he's at peace, and he's got a really good story to be told.
Yeah, I've watched a few of the behind the scenes stuff, and wasn't it like he was on an airplane, he felt something, and he tried to crack his neck or something, and
Yes, yes.
man, that's
That's
scary.
nuts, man. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's just something we could go to sleep tonight and sleep wrong on our pillow or something, and that could happen. It was just he had a lot of stuff going wrong for him, and Sting was his real life best friend too, and Sting kind of straightened his life up and kind of helped him along too. So, yeah, I want to read that. I think it's Wrestling with the Devil, if I'm not mistaken. It'd be a good one though.
Yeah, it'd definitely be something worth reading. I know he's had a troubled past, and he's trying to do the best he can to be a better person. And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of learning lessons, losing his, at the time, Elizabeth, due to drugs. No, and I'm not going to put the blame on anybody. And
Oh yeah.
he's admitted he's never been the perfect person. And I can only imagine all the stress. You're on the road as much as you are as a wrestler. You know better than me, putting your body on the line, the pain you got to go through, just everything.
When I was younger, John, honestly, the wrestlers lived wild lives when I was a young kid. I mean, they lived like rock stars, and I just thought it was part of the culture, I guess, the painkillers and everything. But back in the day, before guaranteed money, if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So you got these guys self-medicating just to get a payday, having to go out and work. So all these guys, every one of my favorite wrestlers have all passed away. Ravishing Rick Rude's the reason I got into professional wrestling. That's the guy I looked up to still to this day. Flying Brian Pillman, the loose cannon, always his character.
Kurt Hennig.
Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. I mean, Bruiser Brody, which Bruiser Brody was stabbed in the incident.
Yeah.
But all these guys that I put into my character passed away, man. And some of them, was murder. One of them was murdered, and some of them were, buddy, just living rough. But Pillman with his ankle injury, I mean, he couldn't work no more, and he was relying on painkillers just to make shows. And his story's another one, man. It is.
Devon Eriks is another.
Yeah,
and people didn't know, was it Kerry who he got in a motorcycle accident, and he had a prosthetic foot, and that was really sad. His story, the whole family story of the Von Erichs is just a sad tragedy in itself.
They're making a movie called The Iron Claw right now about the Von Erichs.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that one. That will be pretty cool. I think Zac Efron's playing either Kevin. I think he might be playing Kevin Von Erich. So it'll be interesting how they pull that off.
So let me ask you some questions here about your wrestling career. What got you started? How long have you been doing the circuit of wrestling? You said only a few years, or you've been doing it longer than that?
Well, I just 38, and in my 20s, I did boxing and mixed martial arts. So I trained, and when I got into that, it was a lot of training with not a lot of fights. So I fought 2 times in the cage and won pretty fast, and then I went 1-1 in the boxing ring, and then I was getting ready to fight for the title, and I went down and weighed in. I think I was 28. No, I was 29 at the time. I went down, weighed in, talked to the promoter. He wasn't feeling good. He thought he had, he was blaming it on gout. And something wasn't right with him, but we had put the cage up. Everybody weighed in. I went home. I went and ate a big barbecue meal, actually, right before it. I went home, fell asleep, woke up to like 70 text messages and like 20 missed phone calls. And I called the guy that was over he was actually the referee in the athletic commission stuff. And he said, the fights are off. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, the fights are canceled, man. He said, Eddie died in his sleep last night. That was the promoter. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah. He said he got up at 5 o'clock and went to the bathroom, come back, laid down, and just died. He had respiratory heart failure. His hands were swelled. His feet were swelled. He thought it was gout.
But he just wasn't getting good circulation.
That was it. And I've got a picture with him, man, that night. Just us with our arms around each other. And It was at that point, man. I was 30. I dislocated my shoulder a couple times. I've tore my bicep. I mean, it's half gone, both of them
Yeah.
actually. So I was getting injured in training. None of the fights were
More than
like
the
that.
fights. Yeah. Well,
The fights
I
were
did a
like,
little bit of boxing training and mixed martial arts training. Nothing where I competed. I more did it to kind of keep in shape, and I enjoyed doing it. But I mean, training just alone is, it's rigorous, man. It's
it's
rigorous.
more brutal than the fights. It is. But once that happened, I've always been a huge wrestling fan. In my early teens, and from the time I could walk, I was always on a trampoline with a pillow. I was always in my head doing pay-per-views, cutting promos to an imaginary crowd. I was always, I mean, I knew if there was one thing I could do in life at a professional level, that it would be professional and really succeed would be professional wrestling, because I was always in good shape and I didn't care to make myself look stupid. And you've got to have that. You cannot care what you look like in front of that crowd. You're entertaining them. So when you go out, it's, balls to the wall, go for broke every time. You can't go out there and be shy. So I knew I had that. But how I got in was basically I knew that I didn't want to fight no more because injuries had racked up and I was getting older. So I said, I want to stay in shape and compete and do something fun. My little boy, he wasn't 2, 3 years old. He was getting into wrestling. So I started back watching it with him. And then I just went, got my license and everything. And the local promoter put me, and it just kept snowballing. And I wrestled. I'm wrestling right now. I got a match in Corbin, Kentucky, February the 25th, Allied Pro Wrestling. And I'm really excited about it. But 8 years is what it's been, and listen, I've got hurt way more in pro wrestling than I ever did fighting. I did a moonsault off the top rope, and instead of balling my hands up, I did that, and it got caught, and my pinky turned sideways.
Wow.
Yeah, it was gruesome.
Finger pain is worse than any other pain. I've snapped a finger. I've snapped my pinky
Oh,
finger. That was one of my worst pains. It was hockey, though, of all things. And I had my glove on. I thought my finger was gone. I thought,
yeah, and I held it because I kept starting pulling it like this because I didn't know if it was dislocated or what, but I kept my hand to my chest, and thank God the match was over after the finish. Uh, but I left and went outside. Everybody thought I was having a heart attack where I was holding my hand to my chest like this. But yeah, people don't really realize. I talked to Dan Severin. I hang out with him and worked out with him, and he had his UFC belts and he had his NWA pro wrestling belt there. And he said, I bring this pro wrestling belt at him. That way, when people come to my table and they ask me, they say, why do you bring that wrestling belt? He said, well, because I'm going to tell you, I got hurt way worse with that belt, representing that belt in wrestling than I ever did in these fights. He said, people don't realize what wrestlers do to their bodies day in and day out. The bumps, the risk you take, going into a ring with a person you don't know is going to help take care of you or not. I mean, it's growing up, I heard a lot of people call it fake and phony and stuff. And until you're in there and because the hits are real, the contact's real, it can do damage on your body. And it's just like Ric Flair right now, man. He's in such good shape to be, I mean, everything that happened to him, he's still in good shape. He says nothing hurts him. Nothing. I
that's
mean,
crazy.
it is nuts because he would wrestle 1 hour Broadways like twice a day. And it's to know how, he was a heel. He bumped his butt off all the time. So it's just brutal. I mean, it's a brutal
Well,
business.
the man survived the plane crash. So, did he survive two? Was it two he got in? Or was it just the one? For some
He
reason, I want to say it
survived a
was.
plane crash,
Right.
and then he was getting off of a plane, and he was holding a umbrella, and the umbrella come out of his hand, and he was like, "What happened?" When he looked around, the guy behind him had got hit. The lightning struck the umbrella and went behind him and hit the guy behind him and killed him, coming off the
Damn.
airplane. You think about that?
That's just, yeah, that is. I'm surprised I've never heard of that. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't heard that story, but I did hear the plane crash. I mean, just the man's a legend. I mean, he really was. He did so much for wrestling, and he did those long matches. And like you said, it's it's not like you get to do a wrestling match and you get 3, 4, 6 months off a year. You're on the road doing it 3-4 times a week at, once a week at the minimum, really. And even those WWE guys, you're all over. I mean, I don't know how you could possibly have a family. You'd, call it, fake. I mean, or whatever you want to call it. Those are real bruises. Those are real, you're taking shots and it's real athletic that you're doing there. I mean, you're taking hard shots. There's no way to fake getting
No,
hit hard. I mean, you might be able to soften it, but you're still
right.
getting hit.
I worked a match against one of the guys in this area, and he was like notoriously one of the best. I mean, he was one of the top guys, and I finally worked myself up where the promoter's like, I'd like to see you guys go at it. So I get in the ring with him, and he's like a general in there, really good, man. He's a little bit older than I was, but he was like, I was kind of like trying to follow the lead. Well, I messed up once. And the way that he was taught that if a guy messes up, you take him to the corner and you boom, boom, boom. You chop him 3 times, and then you go back into it and say, all right, now here's what we're going to do. So those 3 chops I got, dude, I had blood blisters popped up on my arm and chest that night. Well, when I woke up in the morning, I had bruises all up and down my chest. And I'm like, I can remember going up to the house and showing my dad, and he's like, why do you do it? He's
Lesson
like,
learned.
yeah, there you go. I'm going to listen next time.
Well, a couple questions I got for you is, so you didn't go to wrestling school? You kind of learned on the fly. You just kind of picked it up real quick, or did you do some wrestling school? Or you said you hooked
Uh,
up with a promoter?
the promoter actually, when he saw me and seen that I was a good athlete, had a good look stuff, he knew who he wanted to train me right then. And he was the top guy in that company for many years. Well, he kind of hooked us up, and we're actually like best buddies now, like since the start. He was kind of weary at first because guys were like telling him, he comes from an MMA background. He's probably thinks he's going to shoot on people and this and that. And once he found out how I actually am, like the friendliest dude ever, he was like, "Yeah, I'll train you, man." And we become good, best of buddies still to this day. Talked to him earlier, Michael Jameson. Actually, Bart Batten was also. He was one of the Batten twins. Bart and Brad, they worked everywhere. NWA, down with the Von Erichs, they were all around. And Bart worked with me a little bit when I first got going, and think a lot of Bart. Bart's a great guy, man. But it was basically show up, put a ring up. Well, I'll take that back. Let me rewind a second. So when I first got going, we went to a MMA dojo that I used to train out of, and we had mats. Before I got into a ring, we worked on everything that you could work on out without a ring, tie ups, uh, you know, headlock takeovers, just lock it up, anything we could do. And then I was ready once we were able to get in the ring, start running the ropes, bumping and everything. I was kind of ahead of the game. So I learned fast, which I always knew I could. I had a really good idea that when it comes to professional wrestling, like I told you earlier, I felt like if I had got started in my early 20s and was a single man, there wouldn't be nothing stop me. I could have went as far as I'd wanted. That was the confidence I had. But I had a kid. I was married. I was 10, 11 years into a job where I can retire pretty young. So I kind of said, well, I'll stay around close and just have a little fun.
Well, I can imagine your son's having the time of his life. You take him to horror conventions. His dad's a wrestler. He gets to go watch these wrestling shows. That's every kid's dream. I mean, how cool is that? I know you got to be your kid's hero.
Yeah.
Every father is that's around. And I mean, I imagine on top of it, yeah, my dad's a wrestler when he goes to school. We're going to these horror conventions. Yeah, we're going to meet these horror icons. We're going to hang out with RA, you know.
That's nuts because honestly, he is seen to be he just turned 13, and he don't know, like, I mean, he knows he's met some cool people and stuff, but it's really gonna hit him when he's about 25 years old. When he looks back and says, "Man, I've been in a cage and worked with Dan Severn and Mark Coleman with my dad," or I've met the whole cast of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or all the, I mean, just he's met Sting. I mean, all kinds of wrestlers. We spend a lot of time together, man. We really do. And anything I do, I always want him right with me. Where I know there's a lot of guys, it's like, I'd rather go out with my buddies and do it. And I'm like, nah. Which I live a clean life and everything.
Yeah.
So anything I do, he can do with me.
Yeah, that's a great thing, and that's I mean, you're a great dad. Like I saw that. That's why like you stuck out at the table too. I saw how excited you were about the VHS box, and you got that. You got two of them, didn't you? You
I
got
was
the
going to. I was going to get Friday the 13th and Chains and Leatherface, but I ended up taking Leatherface because I went and got, I can't remember what it was. I was going to come back and get Friday the 13th part three. I'll tell you what it was. None of the cast had made it there yet. They didn't get there Friday night, I don't think, because I was going to go over to Tracy Savage and she wasn't there. I was going to buy that and take it, and that's why I didn't end up. But I really regret that. I hope I can find a Friday the 13th 3D one soon. Maybe next Scarefest. Who knows? I'll roll in, might have a stroke of luck, find one.
yeah. So you're definitely going to Scarefest in October, right?
You know it, dude. It would not listen. That's the thing I was thinking about. I just turned 38, so I'm kind of dealing with getting older is kind of in my mind big time right now because I'm like I call myself a 38-year-old kid because I'm a huge kid. But going to these conventions and seeing even people in their 60s and 70s and 50s and it's just like that's my home. That's the people I belong around right there, forever young.
Yeah. I feel the same way. It didn't hit me until about 45. Now I'm 46 and I actually turned 47 this year, and it's like, man, I know that point you're at in your 30s, because I was doing a lot more athletic stuff at the time, and it was like, man, if I don't do it now, it's never. And with the horror, even with Doomsday's Krypt now, it's kind of where I'm at. It's like, you know, I'm at the age right now where if I'm gonna do this, I'm doing it, and I'm going all out. I
I
can't
do a
do the
lot of I do high school basketball broadcasting also. I've got my Bob. It's called Bobcat Sports Live, and I'll go commentate my son's games, middle school games, or I go up to the high school and do theirs. And it's kind of took on a big. It's kind of it. How can I say it? It actually it snowballed into a lot of positive stuff, man, and got a lot of views, and a lot of people get to watch their grandkids around here that can't make it out of the house, and it had a positive impact on this area. And I just did it on accident once for my father-in-law watching his daughter, and I just set my camera up and was announcing the game. And then, like before you know it, people was messaging me that night saying, "Please do that again. You did a really good job." So I've been doing that now for 3 years. So between working kids out, working myself out, high school broadcast, basketball broadcasting, uh, it's just like I said, me and you need more hours in a day.
Yeah, well, you're a great guy. I see what you post and helping the kids out, and I didn't realize you were announcing the games too. But I mean, I know you take a lot of pride in training and trying to be a good role model and guide these kids to leading a healthy life. And I think it's harder for kids now with the way electronics are. Even when I was a kid, we had video games, but you'd still get outside, ride your bike more than I
Yeah.
think the kids nowadays do. And to have a role model that's there helping them train, motivating them to do other things other than just be on their devices or their video games or whatever they're doing, it's great, man. I think it's really awesome what you're doing, and
I, I've been
keep it
really
up.
blessed, man. I have, and I've got some of the kids that started coming to me 3 years ago. They still come now. I mean, it's just in this area, John, where I live. There's a lot of stuff that kids can get into around here that can lead to no good. And I want to just try to get. I mean, a lot of the kids know that I used to fight, and I'm a wrestler, so I can show them some stuff that's pretty cool and work on that. And who knows what they may. A lot of these kids come here, and I can start them when they're 7, 8 year old, just simple mitt work and stuff, and it helps their hand-eye. I mean, obviously they're not going to jump in the boxing ring, but it helps them in other sports like baseball or football or basketball, where it helps their hand-eye coordination and everything.
Yeah,
And it's they love it. I
boxing's one
tell
of
you
those
what.
things that can help out in so many other sports, just with the footwork and
Yeah.
the balance you need for football players. It's you know, you get a strong stance just by having that boxing stance right there. So, yeah, I think it's awesome what you're doing. I can tell every single time you post something how proud you are of these kids, and I can't imagine how good you try to and motivating you are to them to, see the
Well,
good things that they're doing and encourage them to keep doing what they're doing in a positive way and pushing them in the right way to do
yeah.
better. And I think that's awesome, man. Very commendable.
Well, that's what I tell a lot. Like when people first message me about their kids coming, I said, we work hard down here, but we have a really good time, man. I wanted this place to be a place where a kid could come and not have to worry. I wanted them to feel at home because a lot of kids that go to a gym, they'll get down there, they'll feel out of place. They don't feel like they're lifting enough, and then that's it. They're done. If you come here and we're laughing and you've got other kids here that's inspiring you and, helping you, that's going to make them want to come back and keep working. And I've got a couple kids, like I said, that's been with me since like little Jai Johnson. The kid's 15-year-old. He's bench pressing 230 pounds, and he loves helping the other kids and motivating them. And it's really positive place, and I appreciate that. I really do, man. Those words.
Well, there's one that I know you made a post about who you think's probably the best in the state of basketball or something. Is it
Which one?
basketball player? You were saying one you worked with who's really come a long way and doing incredible in sports. I thought it was basketball. I could have swore I saw the post that you made.
Oh, I bet. Last night. No, I don't work with this kid, but he plays for the middle school, Andrew Collins. And he went last year. He was a good ball player. But in a year, he's in 7th grade right now. In a year, this kid's transformed and worked hard. And you should see when he comes across half court, man, wherever he pulls up from, it is in. So that's what I was telling him, man. If you follow that kid's work ethic, if you want something and do it like he's doing, you're going to do nothing, man, but succeed because he's proof. If you work hard, you can elevate your game because he's killing it.
Nothing good ever comes easy, man. You got to work for it. I wish I had more motivation when I was younger. I was lazy as a kid and stuff. I had some talent here and there, certain things, but incredibly lazy in my own way. And
I was bad to quit sports. Like,
yeah,
I played basketball my whole life, but when I got in high school, I think I quit my junior year. The coach moved me into the starting lineup, and I quit because I've started dating a girl, and she didn't want me to go on a overnight trip, so I quit. And I still have dreams and like nightmares about that. And I've been out of high school almost 20 years, and I told my son, I'm like, you will never quit over something, I mean, I wish I hadn't quit.
You don't realize how fast, everybody's like, life goes by so fast. And as a kid, you're like, yeah, I'm sure. But it really does, man. Like, I used to love to play hockey and skate. And the idea of even getting on skates right now after 20 years, I remember I missed a few years of hockey and I got on, I think the last time I was on skates and played, and I played all my life. It was like 24. It had been like probably 3-4 years. And my whole body hurt for a week because you use muscles that I couldn't imagine closer to 50 trying to skate and play hockey again. And
I mean,
the muscles
hockey players are the toughest players. I mean, that's the toughest sport, period. I went to the Smoky Mountains and we went up to Obergatlinburg once and we went ice skating. First time I'd ever been ice skating. And I mean, I just had like a gruesome image of me just cracking my ankles. I mean, I was freaking out, So I just grabbed a hold of the bar and was scooting around a little bit. But that is a absolute, for anybody to play hockey, you got to be tough and you've got to be coordinated, man. And that's awesome. Much respect.
I watched the documentary. I think you'd like the Bob Probert documentary. I can't remember what it sounds like on Peacock or Amazon or Paramount or something. And Bob Probert was a big dude. He played for Detroit and Chicago, and he was a fighter. And his story was really kind of tragic. And you got kind of a chance to follow it, and you kind of see how tough that life was, especially as a fighter, as a bruiser on the ice too, and what those guys went through, especially in the 80s and 90s, before you knew about the concussions and what that can do. So you get a chance to watch that, I highly recommend it, especially you being an athlete and that kind of stuff. It was a real good documentary.
Me and my brother was actually talking about the other night, man, about how many football players that went wild, went crazy, killed themselves, and people didn't realize it at the time. It was all the concussions that they got, man, turned them into different people. I mean, imagine what it does to your brain. I mean,
Junior Seau was really shocking to me because you'd see him and he did a lot of announcing after his retirement, and he seemed like he was doing well. Yeah, that was when I heard, and he shot himself in the chest because poor guy. Just the poor guy. I mean, and you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known, and
No, I've
it's
I've had
interesting.
I've had two. I had one that I know for sure, and that was when I was in a car wreck when I was 8 years old. They told me that I went into shock, but it had to be. It wasn't shock. I think it was a concussion. It had to be because I didn't have a seatbelt on, and I was 8, and we were in a little Nissan pickup. And when we hit a truck, my face went right into the dashboard, and it
I've
like
done
messed my.
that. I've done
And
that in the past.
I was
I
just
know I've had a few concussions, and it does. It still affects me to this day. You know,
Did you ask
I
the
know
same
I've at
question
least three
over
or
and
four.
over? I asked the same question over and over. I was like, "Where are we going?" Because we were going to rent a Nintendo game actually, and I just kept asking the whole day when I was in the hospital, "Where was we going? Where was we going?" I mean, it was. I was scared to ride in the car for the longest time, but the second time, I think it was either. It was more or less probably. Uh, it was definitely a concussion, but I'll have to send it to you. It's a clip where I took an unprotected chair shot to the head,
Ooh.
and it was. I don't know why I did that. Honestly, I should have threw the hands up. I don't know if I thought it was like a code of honor. It was stupidity on my behalf, but I don't even remember the rest of that match or that day. I mean,
I mean, I'm sure you're the same way as I was, 20s and 30s. You don't think about it. It's like I don't want to seem like a wuss, you know.
yeah,
And I mean, especially me, like the concussion protocol. It was like you don't, you keep going. You can't, that's just how you got to be. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you do stupid things. I know I did a lot of stupid things as a kid that, as an older me, would go, "What are you, stupid?" Yes,
yeah.
I was. Could I have talked any sense into younger me? No, no.
Be tough to do. Wouldn't it?
Oh, it's tough enough to try to get through to me now. Imagine, like, I was a lot worse before. I was too hard headed. I'm still hard headed, but it's a lot worse as a younger 20, 30-year-old John. Very hard headed, but it is what it is. So your podcast is doing amazing. I had such a good time, guys. If you haven't checked out Adam's podcast, I know I put it on both Facebook, the Facebook channel and the group. I'm going to put it again in here, and we're going to keep talking for a few more minutes because I'm having a blast with you. But I want to make sure we give a shout out to your Adam Newsome channel. He talks about wrestling, horror, has some great guests on. Like he said, he had Mick on, he had Ra on, and you've had quite a few really, really great guests. You've had what, Mark Coleman on too, I believe.
uh, well, I had Jeremy Horn
Jeremy
on.
Horn.
Yeah, I've had a Guy Mesger. I've had really some good fighters, man. Fred Eddish, Tara La Rosa. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to have Art Jimerson on. And if you're not familiar with Art, Art fought in UFC 1, and he fought with one boxing glove on against
I
Hoist
remember who
Gracie.
he was. He fought Hoist Gracie and lost.
Yeah.
I watched the first Ultimate Fighting Championship. I watched that, and it was, it took its toll on wrestling and action movies just when you see it for real in the ring and what happened. And I'm sure he regrets wearing that boxing glove because people didn't know what to expect,
No.
and
We're
it
going to
was
find out
crazy.
tomorrow why, though. We're going to find out. That's going to be a question answered. Why he
Well,
did that.
I got a feeling I know why, but it just you didn't expect jujitsu to be what it was. I don't think that people there wasn't the knowledge of what it was. There was you'd hear ninjutsu, you'd probably be more like, oh, cool, ninjutsu
Yeah.
or aikido. And nothing against any martial arts or different forms. I think they all have things you can use practically, but jujitsu is something that I'd never really seen too much of. I seen a little bit of it. I kind of heard of it. I was watching one event of jujitsu, and it's like you don't get it until you get it, and you see what happens. And
Hoist
yeah,
Gracie was he was the first guy that I ever seen do it. And if you really go back and do the backstory, find out how the UFC happened and everything, it was basically the Gracie family put that
yeah,
together as an instructional. I mean, they took the least intimidating family member, which was
yeah,
Hoist, because of Hickson had joined it. Hickson was a very intimidating figure, and
yeah.
like he had never lost a fight. They knew if they put him in there, he would look like he was supposed to win just by the way he looked. So they wanted Hoist, just who was a skinny, young, good-looking.
Goofy looking dude.
Yeah,
Hoist was my favorite back in the day. I mean, I remember the fight with Chemo.
oh,
That
that
was,
was
I think that
brutal.
was UFC 3.
3, American
Yeah.
Dream. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it all like when I was younger, and it was, you know, it was just so different. It was something so new, and especially the first one, you were basically Street Fighter. You had your sumo, you had your ninjas, you had uh, pretty much any type of martial art, but there wasn't mixed martial art. There wasn't. It was barroom brawlers at times, street fighters, wrestlers,
The
Ken
first guy that
Shamrock,
I can
obviously.
remember, the first guy that I can really remember that put a little bit of it together was Guy Mesger. That's why I was
Yeah,
so tickled to have him on. He was he trained with Ken Shamrock out of the Lions Den, but before that he kind of had the striking, the grappling. He had a little bit of the submissions more than the other guys. Whereas like Dan Severn came in as a wrestler, and he was the first guy that just mowed over people, man. And Dan, he'll tell you, he's like, I wasn't a striker at him. He said,
no,
you put
no,
my guy.
his stand up was not. I mean, he never stood up. He just took people down and ground and pounded them.
He
And a
could
lot
make
of times, even
moves.
his ground and pound wasn't.
Look, we,
I don't want to say bad. It was just he was strong. He held position well, and you know he knew what he used what he did well and did it the best of anybody at that time in the
yeah.
UFC. So
His Greco-Roman though, man, and he's such a good guy. If you ever get a chance to meet Dan Severn and talk to him,
I'd love to.
um,
I'm a huge fan. Like I said, I mean it when I got into I saw somebody was I saw the jujitsu training and I was in my 30s at the time because I hadn't
yeah,
seen one. I'm like I want to go in and I became friends with the guy who owned the place. Like I said, I just tried to learn a little bit. I didn't do MMA to compete. I was kind of like I'm in my 30s. I'm already beating myself over the landscaping, but I loved it. I loved
yeah.
boxing. I loved kickboxing. I loved learning arm bars and triangle chokes and how to properly do them and kimuras. And I just thought it
Well,
was fascinating.
even if you were doing that though, just as a hobby and just to learn some stuff, you were doing more than most people, man. I mean, just getting involved. I mean, most people don't even do that. So, I mean, hats off to you, John, for even just trying that and learning a little bit. Because if you learn just a little bit, you're able to say, I learned that. I learned the arm bar. I learned the Kimura.
I
So,
loved it. I loved boxing. Boxing and kickboxing were my favorite. I loved the stand up game. I
yeah,
liked the jujitsu, but the
when
stand
I
up
got
game was
into MMA, I always thought, just before I ever fought, I was like, grappling will probably be my strong point, and once I get them on the ground, I'll be able to pass guard. And it's total opposite. Once I learned how to fight with my hands, I was really good with them, and I didn't realize how good I was going to be with them. My grandfather was a boxer, but it was way before I ever got. I mean, he was older and stuff, but I'd always heard stories on what a tough person he was from all the old timers around the house. And once I had some brothers that were pretty tough and grew up street fighting all the time, which I was the baby. I was never in altercations or anything. But once I picked up fighting, it's funny, my dad thought that where I was the baby, and he's like, Adam, I'm worried about you getting in that cage. He said, I'm worried that if you got a chance to hurt somebody, you won't. Because I'm just such a soft hearted guy. I'm just a good dude. Well, it ended in 27 seconds, and I talked to him after it. I said, "You thought I couldn't do it?" He said, "Well, you took care of business, though."
I was like that. I loved MMA. I loved it at the time, and when I was training, I mean, I'd get done training, and I picked things up fast, but it was weird. I struggle with it, like but then I'd go home and just think about it, think about it, think
Yeah,
about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, and then practice it a little bit, but just sit there and just brainstorm it, and then by the next day I'd have it down smooth, and I loved it. I mean, it was literally studying at the end of the day. So it was one of those things where you felt good, you felt strong, and you just start pondering everything that you did and what you could have done better. And I don't know, it's definitely a chess match. It's not just once you start learning it, like
yeah.
different moves and different techniques, and I don't know,
When
it
you
just
learn, like you said, when you learn something new, it's an accomplishment, man. When you
yeah.
study something and work hard and finally get it, that's a big deal. And to you as a human being, that's like adding a trophy to your collection. You learned it. You earned it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I do miss it a lot. I do miss it a lot. Especially since one of my good friends owned the place that I trained, and then I actually trained at a couple places in Massachusetts. There was one, and the guy was a really good Muay Thai boxer. I learned so much cool stuff from him. Like just some really, really cool. He was really good at jujitsu and Muay Thai, kickboxing, and man, some of the stuff he showed me and some of the different arm bars were really, really cool. And he was a great teacher. I didn't train with him too long, but man, I did learn a lot of cool stuff with him. And I miss it. I miss it. But then my hands started hurting too much. I started getting arthritis in my hands, and it's like I just can't do it anymore. It's not a good pain anymore.
No, my boy, when he first got in, like I've been taking him down to Louisville to boxing classes and down to East Kentucky Combat Club stuff, and he's like, "Dad, you need to do it again." And I'm like, "Max, no, son, I'm 37. I ain't 27 anymore. I mean, I know I'm not 37 in combat sports. You can notice when your speed slows. I've noticed my speed has went down. Like I still hit hard. I probably hit harder now than I ever hit. But power is the last thing that goes in a boxer or a fighter. But when you start noticing your speed slow down, then it's
Yeah.
best. It's best.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind training again lightly, like lightly
Yeah.
training, just
Oh,
hit and
I
miss or
still
something.
spar. Yeah, I still
But
spar to this day with the kids that come
yeah,
down here. We throw headgear on and we move
yeah,
around,
yeah. I've seen
and it.
some of the videos. You teach them, and you're good sparring with the younger guys. You know how to make them work just enough with
Yeah,
pushing them at the way they need to be pushed, to get better. So yeah, I've seen the way you train, and I really like it. I think, like I said before, you're doing a fantastic job with these kids. And
I
you're doing a
appreciate it.
fantastic job as a dad, man. Like I really saw how close you and your son were at the event. I think I got the photo, but I'm gonna make sure I send it to you. I think I
Yeah,
might have. Did I send it to you already? That photo?
I don't. I don't think you have, but you're more than welcome to post
Uh,
it.
yeah, I think I might have posted it. I thought I did, but I'll send it to you. I'll find it. I've seen it. And I'll get it to you holding the leather face, and I think he's holding the artwork because I had you
Yeah,
hold the
yeah,
original
yeah,
art. You guys
yeah.
hold the original art, so it's a great picture of you and your son. I'll make sure I send to you either later on tonight or tomorrow.
Sounds like a
Uh,
plan, dude.
but we're about at a little over an hour. I've had a blast with you. We're definitely going to have to hook up again. You're
Yes.
always fun to come on. I can't wait to see you and your family again at Scarefest. It'll be that event is incredible. That's a lot of fun, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they're going to be rocking it this year. And we're going to bring a really, really cool table for you guys to come hang
Oh, I
out at.
can't wait. I love the Leatherface, the one from the recent one that you had down there. Who was that again that made that? We talked about him. I reached out to him.
Which one,
Shoot.
Vinny? Are you talking about the? Which one are you talking about? I had
The
a few
recent
leather
one.
faces. The
The
recent.
the
I don't think I have any recent. I had the radio station. Did I
I
have
thought you
another?
may have had the sculpture of and then the mask was
Oh, yeah. That's actually my buddy Sal who made that.
Sal.
Sal,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
talked to
I'll ask him if he'd want to. Have you talked to him, Officer Sal? Okay, yeah, yeah. I got that out sitting on the table. I just
Yeah,
didn't.
I
But yeah,
love
that's
that
one of my
one.
pieces that I'd never sell because Sal had cancer and he gave it to me.
Yeah,
And I should be having people sign the bibs, and maybe I don't think he's watching. Maybe send it back to him as a gift,
yeah,
because he's a good dude. But it's a cool piece, and
I
he's
loved it,
very
man.
new at making this stuff, and he's been doing it, learning from other people, and he's a great guy. And
He's a great
every
guy.
time,
I talked to him
yeah,
for a while, man, and he's got great
very good.
work. And big
Yeah,
shout out to Sal. That was it.
yeah.
That was his name right there.
Officer Sal Onifray. Okay, it took me a second. That was yeah, he did an amazing job on it,
Had the
and
original tie too, I think. Didn't you,
yeah, he
man?
had the original, the old school tie. Yeah, yeah, the original uh 74 tie on that. So yeah, yeah, it's a great piece. I love it. It's unique. It's creative the way he did it, and yeah, I love that piece. I love putting it on the table.
That's a good
So
one.
I appreciate you coming on. I want to leave you any announcements. You said you got a show tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing Art Jimerson from UFC 1 tomorrow. He was actually supposed to fight Tommy Hearns at one point, and we're going to find out why that fight didn't happen, and we're going to find out why he used one glove, and we're going to find out what he's into now. Guys, go back and watch mine and John's conversation on a Wild Time podcast. We had a good time, and like I said, anytime we get together, we have some pretty cool conversations just about anything. We're not held to one subject because We like a lot of
We
cool
love
stuff.
everything. We got a lot of things in common. That's why we became fast friends, whether it's
Yeah.
horror, boxing, MMA, and you know, always a great time talking to you, man. I don't have any more live streams scheduled, but Friday, like we talked about, Jason Brooks, the writer director, Jason Voorhees from the movie, Vengeance 1 and 2 is going to be on Saturday, not Friday. We
Saturday.
were going to do Friday, which is Friday the 13th, but he's doing a watch along.
Ooh.
Saturday, Saturday the 14th. That's still a good movie, too.
Yes. Yes.
But that'll be the usual time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are around, and check out that show tomorrow. What time's your show tomorrow?
I'm gonna record it tomorrow at, I think he's gonna be West Coast, I'll be East Coast. I'm going at 7, so it will definitely be up Monday. And there's other cool stuff to check out. Check out my Mick Strawn interview. We're both buddies of Mick. R.A. Mihailoff, who's one of my good friends who played Leatherface. Brett Big Schwag Wagner. Man, we just I get lucky, I guess you would say, man, to get some cool guests on here. And having my buddy John, he's had some cool guests too. So everybody keep supporting Doomsday Krypt. I love it. They do great things. John helps out so many talented artists and helps promote them, like Toth, Toth. I call him Toth. Toth, Brute. I love Toth. I think his mommy's a sweetheart also. She's always on there, and you can tell she's really proud of him, man. And that melts my heart, because I'm a mommy's boy too. Not Norman Bates like, but
yeah, no, they're both great people. Michael Toth, I love. He's my dude, and his mom's such a sweet, wonderful lady. Thank you guys all who've been here watching this stream. Thank you again, Adam. Can't wait to see you again in person at Scarefest. We're gonna stay in contact. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace out.
Say you, man.